So my plan coming into 2025 is I wanted to make another 2K a month off of Walmart. January, I made a total of $560 profit. Pretty meh. eBay to Amazon. Dude, everyone's terrified right now.
This business can kind of go on for a long time and you just not know if you're making money or not.
It was just literally sitting there. I put it in the back of my Jeep. A week later, $100, right?
Yeah, it's viable for sure. I made like $600 on accident.
There's people who are doing 500K profit a year, $1 million profit a year. I think in 3 to 5 years, if I keep making similar money, I think I'll be over the $1 million mark at that point for another year until I flip it and just keep doing it.
I don't know. I just think that. Yes, I don't know. Like, I literally don't know.
I'll get some more professional, like some weird southeast town that sold for 40K and it literally didn't have floors. Like, it was mud.
There's no way the president just launched a meme coin before the inauguration. There's no way that's real. It was real.
That's a really good spot to be in, where it's just like, yeah, this could go to zero, and I'd be okay with that. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Side Hustle Experiment podcast. Today we have Seth Checkmate Flips back. He was our longest podcast episode last year, one of the most popular ones. We actually rated it one of our favorite. He is a 7-figure Amazon seller. He does eBay to Amazon flips. He's been getting into real estate. He said he had some ups and downs, so we're like, well, let's just hit start, and we have no idea where this is going to go, but we're all just going to kind of catch up and riff.
Yeah, they said when I got on the call that we have 0 questions for you. We're just going to riff. Those are my favorite podcasts to do and to listen to, because it's just like, not like, okay, how did you get started with selling products for profit online? I can't talk, but that's a good question to get into sometimes, but it's like...
Yeah, it's like, I was really poor. I went to Google. I found this one thing. I sold something for $3, and then I got hooked. Then I got screwed over, and then I found this other thing. And then after the 4th thing, everything just kind of worked out. Now, like, I'm a millionaire.
I love that. I was really poor.
Yeah, it's just like we had the idea for this, like just riffing like this all the time. But honestly, we probably had 3 episodes where we've actually done that. Like your episode, we had one with Jameson, and then when we had with like Duke does Amazon. But aside from that, we don't really just nonstop riff, because a lot of times it's like I don't really know the person, or John doesn't know the person, so we like kind of have to interview, which I hate doing that. But maybe that's enjoyable for some people, I guess. I don't know.
Time and a place for everything, that's for sure.
Yeah, because I like Rogan. Like Rogan just gets on there. Sometimes he'll do interview, but like, you know, it just feels like he's just chatting, even if the dude's like a scientist at Harvard, which is like dope.
The good thing about Rogan is he, like, even if he's not an expert in the area, he's like smart enough to have a good conversation with anyone, you know, like even if he's not this rocket scientist person. Yeah. But I was going to ask Drew, what has Drew been getting into recently and grinding on?
Only crypto, man. As soon as Trump got elected, like, so I was sitting there watching the election, and I saw that Bitcoin was like a 72K. I don't know if you're like familiar with any of that stuff, but it was just like going straight
up. Went down to 70K again?
No, it was during the election, like right before the
right before. Okay.
Whatever
coming into office, it went down to 72. I'm like, shoot, I missed the dip.
No. There's been no dip. So ever since he got elected, it's just like been skyrocketing up. So, I was in the midst of all the marketing stuff, which is probably like the last time we talked. And I'm like, you know what? I'm putting all this on a hold. I'm just going to try to trade crypto. Like I understand it to an extent. So I'm just going to try to do that. I'm down pretty big. I was up like last week. Literally, the people that are watching this are going to see the last podcast. It's going to hear that I'm up $8,000, and then now I'm down all of it. I lost it all. So every other podcast, I'm like, yeah, I'm up 10K this week. Now I'm down 8K. It's just like how it goes. But that's all I've been doing is like trading like meme coins is what it's called.
Yeah. Are there principles of how to manage risk? With all that? Okay.
Yeah. So like, man, there's so much of it. I could do like a whole video on this. But me and John have talked about doing like a Patreon soon. And I'm like, this is the kind of stuff like he could just talk about his influencer stuff, like a solo thing. I'll do some like crypto shit. And it's like people want to listen to it, they can listen to it. But Yeah, I mean, you're never supposed to risk too much of your portfolio, and you have like a certain amount. So let's say I have like 10K in. I never want to risk over like 10% on a trade. That's like a standard principle. And then when do you cut your losses? But these things swing like 50% down, 500% up. So it's hard to even cut losses. You're really trading attention. So it's like, how big is the attention that the thing's getting? If it's not, then it's probably not going to do well. Like if Trump makes a tweet and it's like something crazy, like he tweeted America is back as soon as he got inaugurated, it ran to like 120 million from zero. Like you could buy that thing at like 5K market cap and sell it at 120 mil, make like $1 million. But that's kind of like where it all is. Risk, though, the whole thing is just so risk. You can get wiped out immediately. Like I've lost, I don't even know, probably like 4K today. Like you just can wipe out like really, really fast.
But I mean, if the upside is there, then it's worth it. But you gotta know that there's upside. I'm
Yeah.
curious with that type of stuff. Um, is it the type of thing like you're saying trading attention? Like obviously the stuff's gonna go up if like millions of people see it and buy it. Is it the type of thing that you could sit there, auto refreshes Trump's feed, Trump and Elon's feed, and like buy it like the second that they post about it, and the price hasn't changed enough yet to where
Yeah, I
it's
mean
gonna.
that's almost exactly what. So on my screens, like on this screen, I have this thing called BullX, and it's like a trading platform. Which every single second there's like, dude, like hundreds of new coins getting created because anybody can do it. It's called Pump Fund, is where these things get created, and they get created like a 6K market cap. And then once they get to 100K, they graduate, and then anyone can buy it. I can send you the coin; you can go buy it on like an exchange or whatever, like a decentralized exchange. So every second these coins are getting created. People can create whatever. I can just create like a side hustle experiment pod coin, and we'll see like, and people would buy it or not.
Hey, we
But
should.
good. But then there's I keep like a Twitter monitor over here, and every time like your notifications for Elon or Trump or whatever, this is like faster than notification. So it's like as soon as they send a tweet out, you get the notification, and you can go buy the stuff like that. And it's like the more, like there was some last week that like this perfect example. They found out that we were giving like $50 million of government money to Gaza for condoms. So that somebody made a ticker called 50 million, and then it was like condoms for Gaza. And that thing went from 5K all the way up to like 700K. And I made like 3K alone off that because I kept trading it when it was low. Every time Elon would tweet, it would shoot up 200K market cap. You just have to buy the bottom, sell the top. So like it's all like gambling a bit, but it's like poker. Like poker's not really gambling, but it is. If you don't know what you're doing, it's definitely gambling. But if you do know what you're doing, you can make a lot of money. That's like kind of how I try to see it.
So what's going on with the losses then? If you're doing that and buying it when there's like at the beginning of the attention, what happens with the losses?
Yeah, you just don't know if it's going to go down. Like there's guys, like these guys that are doing this stuff are really good. Like you got to think, okay, so what percentage like are you of an Amazon seller, especially like your niche thing? Okay, so let's say you're like eBay to Amazon thing. Like how many people are not going to get as good of a price as you? Or how many people are going to sell it too early when like, months down the line, this might be better. Like, why would you sell your inventory for? That's kind of the thing. And these people have a lot more money to play with. So if I'm playing with like $1,000, that's like all I've got left in my pool right now. These other people are aping $1,000 to each trade. So it's like they can kind of take the loss, so they can dump on your head. They dump like 10K on your head. That thing's going like straight to zero because there's no liquidity. Like that's a more complicated situation. But somebody can just one clip it and you go straight to zero and you can't even sell your stuff. So that's how you take the losses. Yeah.
So you basically the losses are where you're holding it, you think there's going to be more attention, and then some big fish just dumps.
Correct. Exactly. A whale is what they usually call them, actually. I'm like the small
Yeah.
fish. The whale dumps on your head and then you lose your money like that. But,
Yeah.
you're in dreams of one day becoming the whale that dumps on other people. That's my goal is at the moment.
But you can't just without the knowledge and like experience and confidence, you can't just be like, I'm gonna leverage this. And I mean you can, but that's a great way to ruin your life potentially.
Yeah, you just like blow out. Like, so I have two real life friends that I like trade with. Like I used to. One of them just kind of like blew too much money, and he's like, "I'm out of this, dude. I can't like keep playing the game. I'm down like 2K, and I don't even have that much money." And my other friend, he's like very risk adverse, so he like barely makes anything, but he barely loses anything. I'm just like all over the place, but I have enough cash to just keep putting it back in the thing. It does sound like a degenerate gambler when I talk about this, but
No,
it's not.
though, dude. I feel like it's similar to Amazon, though. That's exactly like Amazon. It's like you're kind of like on this big thing, and then like a wholesaler comes in.
Yeah.
and then tanks the price, so you get your dumped on your head. And kind of like you're saying, like some people like probably join a leads list, buy all this shit, or like shit, I can't afford to play anymore. Like I lost all this money. And there's other people who are like more conservative that are like kind of doing all right, but they're not going to buy 100 Stanley Cups, so they're not going to have this huge windfall, but like they're kind of steady with it and they're okay with it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the only difference between like is a keep a chart and a stock chart, same things. Like these things are similar. It's just with inventory, you have inherent value, which is like the best part about any kind of reselling is that like no matter what happens to you, you have stuff that's worth money, like to anybody. You can go sell it outside of your house, for $10 a piece at least. But with this stuff, you're literally trading nothing. So like it's not worth anything. Like eventually, nothing I'm trading is worth any money. No crypto is worth anything. So like you're basically you're out of luck if no one wants to buy this stuff anymore.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I feel like Amazon, it's less of gambling, but there's a lot of factors that are outside of your control as well. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is like all things have like different risk stuff, I guess. Like I think Amazon's not a very risky one just due to what I just said, but also with Amazon itself is the risk, I guess. That's the risky part there is you can get zeroed out, but we talk about that way too much. But anyways, we talked myself for 10 minutes. Let's talk about the guest. What do you got going on?
Okay, well, it was me asking the questions. So,
No, I appreciate it. That's cool.
yeah, I don't even know where to start, but yeah, where should I get started? I don't know.
What would you do? How was last year overall for you, like sales wise? You have a good Q4, and then what? He was talking about real estate, so you transitioned to that a little bit.
Yeah, the last time we talked was like I think 5 months ago.
Was it like September or something?
Yeah,
Like
right around there.
February. Okay, so September, it was Q4. I kind of went into Q4. Um, I think I was pretty feeling risk averse with Amazon. I'm like, do I really need to grow this anymore? I want to keep making the profit that I'm making. Maybe a background to those who don't know me and my business model is my main business model is online arbitrage, but it's eBay to Amazon. Basically, I find a lot of discontinued products that people are looking for on Amazon. And of course, people get them on eBay from an estate sale or whatever, and they got it for $10. They'll sell this $200 Amazon item for like $90, and I'll have alerts set or my VA is checking for stuff or software is looking for it. And I'll purchase those, sell for profit. I did about 1.1 million last year and did about 250K in profit. So that was my best year ever by a good bit. So super stoked with how last year went. Yeah. And then also, along with the risk averse with Amazon stuff, I kind of decided it would be good to learn some new skills besides just Amazon. So what I'm learning right now is buying and selling houses from tax deed auctions.
Interesting.
And so, um, basic rundown of what a tax deed auction is. Basically, you got to pay your property taxes to be a property owner. If you just ignore that for 2, 3, 4 years, depending on the state, the government's going to come in and take your house and put it up for auction so that they get paid their property taxes. So investors can come and buy the house with the starting bid of the property taxes. So that's a pretty good situation. Of course, there's going to be a lot of situations where there's multiple people trying to buy the house, of course, but sometimes stuff falls through the cracks. And when something falls through the cracks with the house, that's a pretty good situation. So that's kind of what I'm shooting for. Yeah, so I'm learning how to do that. Still doing Amazon. Decided to do a little bit of Walmart just to make another 1,000 or 2 a month. That's kind of where I'm at.
So people are probably wondering. So when you say 250, is that like 250 cash in the bank?
That is 250K that is added to my net worth either in inventory or, well, there's going to be a lot that I'm paying in taxes. So, so I'm not going up 250K in net worth because of that. Because I'm not like freaking Josiah buying like, oh, I made 200K this year. I need to buy like 11 cars for my Turo business for write-offs. I'm not really playing that game, unfortunately. But yeah, generally that's cash in my pocket, besides the taxes.
That's amazing.
What about Walmart? You said talk about that. We have so many people on here talking about Walmart. How have you seen success there?
So my plan coming into 2025 is I wanted to make another 2K a month off of Walmart. Just like as an Amazon seller, I think that's like the easiest go-to for like, can I make income besides on Amazon? And that would just feel good to have like basic living expenses covered by something besides Amazon.
Yeah.
Um, January, I made a total of $560 profit. Pretty meh, but I spent a lot of January getting set up with the prep center and like buying inventory. So like I didn't even have the whole. It wasn't even selling all month. So I think we're on track for that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, dude, is it the same type of stuff like where you do all that eBay stuff? Is it like same sourcing or is it way different?
Yeah, I'm really doing as close to the same business model as I can. There's just on Amazon, I do target stuff that's like pretty slow selling. I'll just get like one unit, and like it's okay if it sells in a month or two. But on Walmart, it seems like the volume is less, like a lot of people are saying. Um, so I have to target stuff that sells a little bit faster. But there's also less competition, so it's a big toss up with everything.
There are a lot of
And
eBay.
on,
Go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead, good.
Are there a lot of eBay to Amazon? I guess it'd be eBay to Walmart at this point. Do you see a lot of that, or are you kind of like one of the first ones?
I know that there's some people doing it, obviously, but I don't hear as much on social media about it. I know Rake and Profit was going to do it. He did a little bit of it. I know some other people were doing it. I feel like mostly people are talking about Walmart and selling on Walmart and it being better than Amazon, but not a ton of people talking about eBay to Amazon.
Mm.
But like all my infrastructure and like the items that I buy and sell are eBay based, so I'm just going to keep doing that. I think.
Have you seen any competition like rise with that? Because I feel like that's probably one of the most unique models we've even like talked about on here. Have you seen the like floods coming in of the normies?
Well, honestly, like I'm probably part of the flood coming in because I don't even know like what's the Walmart landscape like? Like I don't know. I just got here kind of. Like I haven't really done this seriously besides this month. Um so like a lot of the listings there's like one or two people on it, but then there's also less volume. So I'm getting a gauge for how fast things sell.
I'm in on Amazon.
Oh, on Amazon?
Yeah,
Like as far as eBay to Amazon?
yeah.
eBay to Amazon. Dude, everyone's terrified right now. Everyone's freaking terrified
Why is that?
because of all the Section 3s and then like random gating. And I found eBay to Amazon to be easier recently.
Yeah, better people probably quit, right?
Maybe. It seems like it.
That was always my like kind of, I guess, hesitant from doing eBay to Amazon. It's like you don't have any receipts, you know. I don't know. It could just be more. It's much more risky in general. Then all these Section 3s started happening, and people are submitting like legit invoices. Who knows if that's really true or whatnot? But I've definitely known some people. I'm like, they're probably not doing shady stuff, and it's like, well, if Amazon won't accept those emails, like receipts, like how risky is eBay to Amazon really? Like, not that risky, because if you don't have any receipts, but you're submitting Nike receipts and they're not taking those, then you're just kind of in the same boat.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like we were just talking about risk versus reward. That's the thought that I have. It's like, okay, I think eBay to Amazon is maybe 20-30% riskier with much, much better margins. And then you can make it less risky if you do FBM as opposed to FBA because you just have more control over the inventory. Amazon seems to be pickier with FBA stuff. And then also FBA, people are having so much trouble with like lost items and items not going, um, like even getting in stock for weeks and weeks and having to file claims for things. I think I'm I used to be all FBA and like so into FBA, and now I'm just like, I don't think I'm gonna do FBA for anything besides the random used books every once in a while for fun. Like, not into it.
You know what I find like so intriguing is we've done so many of these podcasts in a row where everybody that comes on here sounds like you are like, you pull back a little bit and kind of like more hesitant to Amazon stuff. And me and John like just don't do it much more any like at all. And I wonder if like the risk is there, if it's really gotten so much worse, or if the perceived risk has gotten so much worse. 'Cause it's like now you have a lot of people talking about it. All you hear people getting shut down and stuff. Like, is it really that much worse, or is it like, a bit of a mania of people like always just thinking it's getting worse? But like the people that are kind of trying to de-risk, nothing ever has happened to them. It's just
Right.
like they just hear it, right? So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it actually is getting as bad as like, it's scary to sell on Amazon, or maybe it just perceived that way?
It's a good point. I mean, everyone seems scared about it. Um, is it actually getting riskier? I think it is, but it's like, I don't know. I think I had a conversation with like John, like you, like 2, 3, 4 years ago, maybe at
Yeah.
this point, and I think we kind of came to the conclusion of like, okay, out of the people that we know that are like posting on social media, friends, Amazon sellers, like how many of these people, of these like 50 people, have actually been suspended and didn't get their inventory and their payout back? And I think the conclusion was like maybe one or two.
Yeah.
And even at this point, maybe it's like 3 or 4. So like if you were to just do the math on like, okay, if I try to be a serious seller because um, I do think there's more risk for smaller sellers who are um, doing FBA, don't treat this like a business at all. Um, and it just seems like if you had 46 chances to succeed and 4 chances to lose, just do what you can and take those odds.
Yeah. If those are the odds, then that's pretty good odds. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
like,
Don't
yeah.
put yourself in a situation to go to zero.
Yeah,
What are your
it's
thoughts on that?
I think it's very interesting because kind of what you were saying, it seems like one, and I talk about this a lot on the podcast. One, a lot of the people who do get deactivated or quit selling Amazon, you never see them on any podcast. Like you have no idea. They just kind of like disappear and you forget about them. So it's never kind of brought out and it's like this could happen to you. Like this is what happened to this person. And two, I think I agree with you with like the friend circle. I think what what I'm starting to see is like I don't really, not because I'm not friendly or whatever, but like I kind of have my circle, right? Like who I network with or whatever. So I feel like there's a bigger gap now where I'm not as in touch with the newer sellers just because I'm not. Like it just is what it is. And so I don't hear as much about that. And I also think another part of this is a lot of people who were crushing it now do coaching and they're almost teaching coaching that worked when they were selling, but now it doesn't work as well. And I think that is creating like a huge gap. And we're kind of not really seeing that part of it. Like, because I don't really think a ton of big people that I knew who were selling Nike and stuff like that really got hit that hard. It was all the new people that got hit the hardest.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, is what you're saying that the percentage of people who are having account health, suspension, gating issues, a lot of them are like there's a higher percentage of new sellers that are having these issues, but the people who've been selling for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years are having a smaller percentage of issues?
From what I've seen, yes. There's been a couple outliers who I only know about one or two that, have been selling as long as I have and had issue, but it seems like they were able to get it resolved. But for the most part, it seems to be like newer people, I think. But I don't know. For me, it just seems to get. I don't know. I would think for me, I'm just more hesitant. I guess would be like the right way to put it. It's just I don't know. For me, it's getting riskier and riskier. It also depends on what you're spending. right? If you're spending like $5,000 a month, I think it's different versus if you're spending 50, 60K every month and how leveraged you are. And for what I've seen, the people who've got wrecked the worst are the people who are super leveraged. And, you know, because they did it during Q4 too. So they were like, hey, we got to get all your stuff here in October, get all your stuff here in October. Everyone took all these massive like credit cards out, and then some of them got suspended, some of them lost their accounts, some of the stuff just like tanked, and it's just like really sad to see that. But we don't really see that many stories, right? How many people are on a podcast saying, hey, like I lost all my inventory in Q4, like F Amazon, like this is terrible.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just so out of touch now, especially like where I've started the crypto stuff. I don't use my normal social medias. I just like use burner stuff on there. So I don't even see like any type of what's going on. I just hear from people on the pod. But like my whole thesis for quitting Amazon was my margins are shrinking. The risk is going up. The perceived risk is going up. And I just don't see how this makes me super rich in the future. I see how it makes me broke though. Like I definitely see how I can zero out here if I keep trying to scale it. So I'm just like, I'm just going to quit, which in hindsight, I should have tried to automate it more with VAs and software, stuff like that. And then just scaled down and let it just bring in cash flow. But I'm just a dumb young kid. So how was I supposed to know that 2 years ago or whatever? But yeah, but I think it's playing out somewhat, you know, everybody I talk to, aside from like you, but yours is a different situation, you know, but we're talking about OA guys, their margins go down. You know, they get hit with Section 3s. I get text messages sometimes from people like, what do I do here? You know, this type of thing. I don't know. It's hard to just know if it's just mania or if it's really, really getting worse. I mean, I know the saturation of products is getting worse. That's for sure, just because there's more coaches and there's more people in the space. So it's harder to find profitable stuff, but is it still worth it comparative to the risk? I'd say it depends on your model, you know?
Yeah, you gotta do the risk versus reward of like, okay, I'm making this much per month. I'm invested this much total, and this is my perceived chance of getting suspended with my model. And then as far as the mania, um, like maybe I'm in the wrong Facebook groups or something, but like I'm in like several Facebook groups. I feel like every time I open my phone, I see someone in a Facebook group complaining about getting suspended or blah 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 blah. But the thing is like, okay, if I'm in a Facebook group that has 7,000 members, and then another one that has 11,000 members, then another one with 900 members, um, like chances are you probably will be seeing someone that's going to be the loudest because they're the angriest that day or that week getting suspended with that many people. So there's definitely like major problems that people are having. But just what's the percentage of people actually having suspension level problems? Um,
I wish there were statistics about it because, yeah, like you said, I think on the contrary to like, you know, John, you were saying about going on pods and stuff, but I think those people are the loudest on social media for sure, just because that garners attention. Like if you say, hey, I just lost 15 grand, I'm suspended, people are gonna be like, whoa, what happened to that guy? But if you say, you know, I just made 15 grand or whatever, you know, that doesn't garner as much attention as the negative.
then you don't need to post about that.
Yeah.
You really don't.
Yeah.
Like most of these people aren't trying to sell a course or build a social media. Like if random Joe Blow from Florida is like having a great month, like he doesn't need to post that he made 17K a month and has been doing it for the last 13 months.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people use this stuff similar to me. Like I'm in groups and stuff. I've paid so much money for groups, and if you go through my log, I'm never there like helping people or trying to brag. I'm always like, "Hey, I have this problem. How do I fix this problem?" So that's like how most people are. I think most people just lurk and then they just ask for like when they have issues, which is not who you should be. Please, if you're in a group, don't do that. I'm a bad community member, but I just don't really interact with people like that. So yeah, I think that's kind of like where it comes from a lot, but I don't know. I mean, maybe it's worse, maybe it's better. I don't really know, but
I don't know.
think,
For me, like I've gotten a lot of DMs lately, more so, and a lot of people are definitely trying to diversify, trying to look at other options. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to talk about it publicly, but like more so than I have in the past, and it's just like I feel like you just have to do what's best for you in your situation. I mean, if you have a family and stuff, like we had Oscar on Hustling Oscar, and he's like, I have 6 kids. Like, I can't like risk spending $100,000 a month, and then they take it away like this. Like, I need to see other options. So I think it depends on your situation too. Like, maybe if you have like a significant other that works too, and if Amazon got wiped out, like, you could live off of them. So your risk is much lower, right? You have a higher upside because like you get to sell on Amazon. I think the other hard part for where it comes from most people, it's like, what were you doing before this? Like, if you were doing like some, I don't know, this is a bad example. Let's say you're working at Target, right? Like, you don't want to go back and work at Target. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I think there's differences there too, right? Like, you had this taste of like working for yourself, making all this money, and to go back to like $15 per hour, it's almost like that's not an option for me. Like, if I was in that situation, but I can't go back to that. Like, I got to keep like fighting through this, and whether that's a good idea or not, I don't know.
Yeah, and then there's the other part of it that we kind of glossed over a little bit, the whole dynamic of it seems like newer sellers are having higher percentage of these types of issues as opposed to the sellers who have been around for a little bit longer. And it's an interesting thing. It's almost, again, we're going to go back to this risk versus reward and like attention, like Drew's trading crypto based on attention. When you get in on something that's a little bit earlier and less attention, you're going to most likely have more like almost special treatment, or like you're more established. And like that doesn't feel fair, but at the same time, that's kind of how life ends up working. Like, I don't get to make the rules on that, but like, you're going to be benefited if you come into something earlier in the whole attention situation than later. So that's something to always be thinking about.
Yeah, 100%. Like if you're a first mover, that's like a massive advantage. Yeah. And that's kind of how the Amazon thing was. Although it's been around for like 15 years, I think it really has only been around like heavy, like 8 years. Like that's kind of where people really like 2020 and before. That's when you hear all these people, that's like where their story started, was like 2018 to 2020. That's like where a lot of people started. And then it's kind of like in the later stages, which is a long time for a business model in general. Like 7 years, 8 years, that's a really long time. Drop shipping was just cooked in like 5 years, 4 years. And people still do that stuff. It's still profitable, but that's another thing to consider too. I'm curious your thoughts on. We had Gavin Sweetie. I don't know if you know him, but he has a $4 million a year, basically remote business. Like he doesn't do anything with it. He has VA sourcing, all this stuff, and does $4 million a year, pretty good profit margins. And I was surprised he said this, but he was like, I wouldn't recommend anyone to sell on Amazon. Mm-hmm. And he's not like a bearish. What is it?
How long has he been selling for?
2019, 2020.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what were you saying?
Yeah. So he said that. So I'm curious what your thoughts are. Would you recommend that to somebody if you especially now you're learning a new thing, right?
If you're still listening to the podcast at this point, you are into it and a fan, and we really appreciate that. If you could do us a solid and like, subscribe, and do all that stuff, it really helps the podcast grow. And secondly, if you could tag us on Instagram, just take a picture of what part you are at the podcast. If you like it, tell us what you think about it. Tag me at Side Hustle Experiment, and I will definitely share it. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Yeah, it's been interesting because that's something that I've been thinking a little bit about myself with like some friends and like family members in my life. Like in my head, it seems like, okay, if you're just wanting a side hustle, you want to make like $500 to $2,000 a month profit. Like it should be pretty freaking easy to just go scan some books and send them into Amazon. Like this should work for you fine. Like why can't you just do that if you are connected to someone who's like giving you tips and is helping you with that? But like I'm rethinking it a little bit, and I'm like, should someone really start like Amazon? Is it really the thing to start right now? Like I don't know.
I'm gonna steal this from of episode that will be released by the time this is. So we interviewed Sarah Arbitrage Avenue, and this has been like sticking with me. I was thinking about this today, and she was saying, I think, well, she didn't say this, but I think this is a big thing. It's depending on why you're doing the business. So most people do this because they need to make more money, or some people do this to get extra money. And she was saying that like most people start this to make, they need to make money, but the only way to make money on Amazon is to spend money, which you most likely don't have. So I think that is like the big difference. It's like if you need to make money because you have no money, like maybe not the best like thing to start, but if you're trying to make extra money and are all right, then maybe it's a good opportunity.
That's a good point because like with the whole, even if you do this with an eBay store, like you're buying items for less and you're putting them up for sale for whatever your $15 profit or whatever it is in whatever business model. But like that stuff might not sell for 2, 3, 4, 5 months. And the sell through rate is going to be slower than you thought. Like you're making yourself more money, but the timeline is more like 6 to 9 months. And that's if you're doing things right, which you're not going to be because you're starting something new. So that's something to think about. If you need like another $500 a month, like month 3, like it's not going to happen. Like I'm doing my Walmart store. I spent like 5, 6K on inventory, and I made $560 profit so far. And so when someone doesn't do e-commerce at all, like they'll see that and they'll be like, oh, well, you're down $4,500. But the idea is that all of that is going to sell eventually, assuming that I did everything right.
But they don't see that because if you were on social media, you'd be like, I just made $500 selling on Walmart. But the part that's missing is that you spent 5 to 6 grand.
Spent a lot. Yeah.
I think another difficult part of this, I'll never forget this, and I don't really talk about it much on the pod anymore, but now this conversation is coming up, it's making me remember it. I think it was Ty Lopez maybe that said this, but he was talking about like you never want to get started with a low margin business. Like if you're just someone who doesn't know anything, low margins are the worst possible thing because it requires capital. Okay, that's the part of the low margin. And it also requires like tons of meticulous stuff to keep track of things. So I think another thing is like this business can kind of go on for a long time and you just not know if you're making money or not. You could just kind of be churning the credit card points. You don't have the money to pay $400 a month for an accountant, $500 for an accountant. You're not going to do that. So you think you're making money, but you're really not. But you're in debt so much you just don't even really know. And then eventually it comes to the point where it's like, okay, now I really can't pay this stuff. I don't have inventory. I've been losing money every month. So that's the tough part with low margin business. When if you do something like you're selling ebooks or you're doing like affiliate stuff and things like that, your margin's like 90-some%. So you have a lot of room for error. You can kind of mess a lot of stuff up and be fine. Now it's more difficult than just selling inventory. Yeah, reselling is the easiest thing in the world, but there's a more, how easy is it to make $500, on TikTok Shop or, the Amazon influencer program. Like that stuff's, you have no risk. All you do is risk your time and you can only get money. Nothing's going to go wrong with your life there. So I would kind of, if I had to tell somebody to start, I wouldn't even recommend reselling because I'm just like like John said, you have to have money. You can't just last thing you want to do is get a credit card and then go buy a bunch of shit you don't know about and try to sell it. That's not going to work for sure. And that's kind of what everybody pushes to do. So I don't really.
I always tell people like before they even start Amazon, it's like sell stuff in your house on Facebook Marketplace to see if you even like it. Because like if you don't get excited when you sell this microphone that you bought like for $10 for 30 on Facebook Marketplace or even for 15 and you're not psyched you made $5, you're not gonna be psyched when you make your first sale on Amazon either. And I think you got to know the process. It's the same process, like inventory. You need to get inventory. So whether it's at your house or I always tell people like friends and family, like grandparents, aunt, uncles, like my parents have so much shit in their house that they don't want, but like they're not going to go on Facebook Marketplace or like they're more than likely to throw it away because like they just don't want to deal with it. So there's so many opportunities with that. Like, if I went to like Seth and he has all these Amazon returns, be like, hey dude, like I'll do all the work. I'll give you half the stuff, half the profit that I make. You'd be like, yeah, that sounds good to me, bro, because like this stuff is just sitting in the corner doing nothing. So I think that would probably, if I needed to make extra money, I would do Facebook Marketplace. Because stuff on there is free all the time. We drive around garbage day, there's like chairs, there's desks, like there's so much shit, like ellipticals, like yeah, you have to put in the work to like go get that elliptical or whatever, but like hey, if you don't have any money, I mean that's where you start. That was like one of my biggest flips. I was like so psyched about it. Someone put a table and chairs on the side of the road when I first started flipping furniture, and it was like I don't even know, but I got $100 for it. Like it was just literally sitting there. I put it in the back of my Jeep. A week later, $100, right? Like in the grand scheme of things, is $100 a lot of money? At the time, for me, it was because like I had a full-time job. Like things weren't going great, but I mean, I don't know. I think people that doesn't sound sexy though, right? It seems cool, like oh, I have an Amazon business. Not like oh, I pick up furniture on the side of the road, but like it's so practical.
Well, here's the thing, like most people aren't even gonna like find a product that's worth anything and put it up somewhere where someone can give them money for it. So if you can do that process and then do it over and over again and work on getting stuff for the right price and work on putting it on the right platform for the right price, like that is a skill. Like we're talking about all this like saturation and Amazon's being terrible and reselling being terrible, but like if you need to just like get by and pay bills and you're willing to grind like at a pretty basic level, you could do that, especially with eBay, because if you just go for like higher margin stuff, um, the risk is pretty low.
Yeah, definitely. And I was saying, we interviewed Casey, who's like runs Divine. They have like, he has like a reselling group, and they're always doing like price errors and stuff like that. If I had to recommend reselling, that's probably what I would do, is like garage sales and price errors and like hype flips. I got some of these baseball gloves. I remember I joined his group and I bought 2 PlayStations for $500 a piece and sold them for $680 a piece on eBay. So I made like $130 a piece. And then I bought 2 pairs of these baseball gloves, like kids baseball gloves, $70 a piece, sold them both for $150 a piece, and made like, 60, $70 in between. I put zero effort into this shit, dude. I was literally just sitting here trading, and I saw an alert pop up and I would just buy the stuff. Just so like, I didn't even care if I lose money. I was just like, is this even viable? Yeah, it's viable for sure. I made like $600 on accident. So that's one way people can do it, is just buy the hype stuff and the price errors. Like there'll be like Campbell's soup for $1 or whatever on Amazon. You can sell that on Facebook Marketplace, that kind of thing. I think that's like the most viable business model for somebody. Now, is it, like you said, it's kind of maybe difficult to know the value of this stuff, and are people going to buy it? Where are you going to list it at? But if you can put in a little legwork and just learn that, then I think that's the best model. And I even had a guy last year that I coached. He paid me a lot for Amazon coaching. And I told him, join this reselling group. It was like a secret group of mine that I told him to join. And he just started buying stuff from this reselling group, and he couldn't sell on Amazon. He just didn't. He thought he could get ungated, and he couldn't get ungated. He's like, dude, I listed for Facebook and got more money than I would get on Amazon. I didn't even have to ship it. I got it cash. So he had his whole garage filled with this stuff. He's like, I just got pallets of this stuff in that I'm going to wholesale to somebody, like just some random person, for a bunch of money. And he was saying, I think this is better than Amazon. I was like, yeah, in your current situation, yeah, you can make probably $5 or $6 a month if you just put the legwork in, rather than like spending a ton of money on Amazon to make like 10% margin of $5 to $6 a month.
It is crazy. Like I'm starting to mess around with Facebook Marketplace because I get so much stuff from the influencer program, and yeah, it's cash. There's no fees. Like the people seem to be pretty nice. Yeah, you'll get those annoying people that like don't show up or whatever. But me, I work from home, so like if they don't come, like I really don't care. Or if I'm going out, I'm like, this happened the other day. It was like we wanted to go out, and I was just like, we're going to a restaurant like 10 minutes away. I was like, if you want this, you have to meet me at the restaurant. Like he pulled up in front, just gave it to him, hopped out of the restaurant, and then went back to the restaurant quick. Like not a big deal. So I think a lot of people like kind of overthink maybe what it takes to make money, and like literally Facebook Marketplace. Like you were saying, like those ninja slushies. There was like this machine that I bought, and it was like the hottest ninja thing. I don't think it really took off as much as it did, but you could get them, I think, at Target. They might have been like 350 ish. They're selling on Amazon for maybe 600 at the top. but people are getting like 500 to 550 locally. That's
Yeah.
no shipping. That thing is like 20 pounds. Like, no fees, no returns. Like, that's the best part. No returns. Like, you buy something on Facebook Marketplace. Like, for me, like, if some influencer product doesn't work, like, I'll Venmo them back. Like, I'm not trying to rip everyone off or whatever, but it's like, hey, dude, like, if you buy this Ninja slushy machine, like, you bought it. Like, I don't want to hear anything about it because I know it doesn't. I know it works. So it's like, hey, or it's brand new in box. Like, you decide you don't want it anymore. Like, I don't know, go try to like return it back to Target or do something else. But it's not my problem anymore. So I think that is like, I'd say that and the influencer program are probably. I'd recommend the influencer program to anyone because that is something that can generate cash, especially if you just have stuff in your house. Like if you buy anything from Amazon, you don't have to buy it from Amazon. There's just so much stuff in your house. And I think people, that's always the funny part to me. It's like, oh, like, why'd I like review this microphone and only make like 20 cents when it sells? It's like, well, you're not making any money like doing what you're doing now. So, like, it's better than something. But like, once you get a microphone and then you get other stuff and it just like builds on top of it, even if the stuff you're reviewing only makes $1 each, you have 1,000 items, that's $1,000. Like, you do that video once or whatever, and I don't know. I think that's just kind of like the craziest opportunity. Like, are you going to make like $250,000 doing the Amazon influencer program? Probably not. But you also have no leverage, no risk. I mean, so it all just depends on what you're doing. If you're staying home all day, like, I don't know. Or if you have a kid, like, I think that's the craziest opportunity because, like, as your kid grows, you have to buy it more stuff. And like, so you already have a thing in place that you're gonna have to buy more stuff naturally. So why not do like a quick review on it and make money?
I've definitely fantasized about just selling through my Amazon store and just like wiping my hands clean of it and just being like, I'm not invested anymore. Like maybe I'll have like 1,000 or two in it just for these really high margin flips and just call it good. But it's working for now, so I'm gonna keep doing it.
Do you ever think you'll get to that point where you're just like, I'm gonna wipe it clean, just liquidate everything?
It'll happen someday, hopefully.
Yeah, it's
But
funny, man. When I stopped, like there was probably podcasts to me 6 months previously of like, yeah, I'm probably gonna scale to like 3 mil and stay there. And then I just like am not selling anymore in 6 months. I never thought I'd do that. And then people in my like real life are like, what? Why'd you quit? And I just like, I don't know. I just did this whole analysis in my head, and then a few other things happened to me too, where I came into like a lot of money quickly, and I was like, that seems like a better opportunity at the moment. So that kind of stuff was kind of deterred me. But it did, dude. One thing that feels good is when you have that cash in your bank account. Like I was like, in this business, you're never like that rich. Like you never know how rich you are because the inventory is money, but it's not really money because you never know what it's really worth. It's always fluctuating. How fast it's going to sell. It's not like actual assets. It's not super liquid. But yeah, when you have all that cash in your bank, you're like, damn, man, I'm pretty rich. That's probably how you'll feel when you're done with it. You'll probably get rid of the stuff and be like, I didn't even think I had this much money because I severely underestimated how much I would have.
you underestimated how much you'd have?
Yeah, because I talked to somebody, he was like, man, people tend to overestimate that stuff. I was like, yeah, I'm trying to be conservative with it. I severely underestimated it. And I didn't even know, I wasn't even selling through inventory. I gave away 15 grand inventory to one of my friends. Like I could have sold that too, but I was too lazy to do it. It was too much shit. But yeah, it was a lot of stuff. So I think a lot of people be in that situation.
I mean, for me, I definitely like sit here with like 20 different sections of like where inventory could be or money could be in like different bank accounts and all that and do like a net worth add up every single month and like look at all that, like including the inventory. I look at like when it sells, if it's listed at the price that it's at, like how much will I have, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm curious if it's going to be more or less if I were to just like stop today and just like sell through everything, because it's interesting because some stuff will sell for what it's listed for. Some stuff I'm just listed too high potentially, so it's going to go down. Um, but then like potentially Inventory Lab isn't tracking everything, and there's certain things that aren't listed as well. Anyways, it's not that important. But
Well, you're still doing yours all cash though, right?
yep.
So I think that's a big difference. Most
Yeah.
people have a huge credit card bill to pay off every month. They have no idea whether or not. But then once your bill is like fully paid off, That's kind of what Drew is probably experiencing. It's like, well, I'm getting all this money and there's no credit card bill because I'm not buying anything else. I'm like,
Yeah, you
dang.
can also like put the credit card bill as part of your like net worth add up.
Yeah.
You can
Well,
say,
I did. Yeah.
yeah, you did as well, and you still
Dang.
underestimated. You feel like,
Yeah, I just didn't know, I guess, how much inventory I had. Like, I don't know if I see. I have a bunch sitting in a warehouse. Like, so I had a bunch that I was sitting on, like way more than I thought. Like, I was going through. So this is like so stupid of me, but I was going through some of this inventory, and there were like $600, $700 items just sitting around that I just had sitting in a storage unit. So that like added up way more than I thought it would. Like,
why
fat.
did you do that?
Why did I what?
Why didn't you list that stuff?
Because it just got too big. Like it was a little pile, and then it kept growing. You know, it's like when you have that big pile of clothes in your room, and you're just like, "Whoa, it's getting way too out of hand now. I'm not folding all this shit." That was like that, but times $50,000. But more than that, I bet it was over 50K of inventory. I didn't like even ideally get rid of it like the way I should have. I was just kind of like, let's fire sale this stuff. This is so much money. I'm just like letting burn here. But luckily, a lot of that stuff goes up in value too. So maybe it wasn't as much money before, but by the time I got to it, it was up 3x, a toy or something like that.
That is
I
nice
really-
for sure. Like, I've definitely had some Lego sets. There was one that was like beat to shit, like such bad shape. I listed on Facebook Marketplace. I think I paid $75 for it. Someone gave me $150 because it would just retired, and I was like, all right, I guess like it made sense that you like sat on this for 2 years. Like, not really hypothetically, but like I was like, it worked out. But for everything that worked out like that, there's a lot of shit that did. It went
100% return. Over 2 years,
Or-
you're not going to get anything else that returns 100% ROI.
very true.
I was literally like I would love in another life I would become an expert at like alternate investments of like things that are discontinued or collector items or stuff like that, because like a lot of my items that I'm selling right now are discontinued, and it's like, let's say it's this label maker that was selling for $50 1,000 times a month for years, and then it gets discontinued, and for some reason it's $200 now. And if you could have predicted that, you could have 3x your money within the span of like a year. And like I was looking at like Charizard cards, Pokemon cards yesterday actually, and like let's say you had just had the foresight when they came out to be like, okay, these like rarer cards, like yeah, they're like $400 right now, but like they're really rare. This is really popular. I'm just gonna hold this for 20 years, and then suddenly like it's a $15,000 card, and that's 100% ROI every single year. Like that's nuts. But like, how do you understand that the attention is gonna change like that?
Yeah, that's hard, man. Like that. What I think though is like you put that stuff up on a long enough time frame, almost everything to an extent is going to do that. Like I think one thing, Funko Pops, those have like died basically. I think that company might be like almost out of business, but that's some probably people took a bet on, like you're saying, and then those things literally like went to zero. There's probably some that are worth money, but I was scanning some Funko Pops that I had, and while everything else at 5x, those things were worth like $4. It was like more cost to sell them and ship them. So I'm like, let's just give them away. But if that thing, I mean, like cards, okay, those have been around for like 100 years. Those are not going anywhere. Like there will be another boom in Pokemon cards and sports cards. I remember in 2020, it was ridiculous. People paying millions of bucks. I have so much like sports card stuff, probably like 10K of sports cards and Pokemon cards. And I probably paid 25 for them. But like, I know that one day they'll probably be worth 50. I just gotta, keep myself afloat till I won't have to sell them. But I think a lot of that stuff is just, as long as your buy cost is good enough, it's going to come back around. You just don't want to buy the top every time. That's kind of what I did, but I didn't know any better then. But
you gotta just avoid buying the Funko Pops that are gonna end up being $4.
Yeah.
Later,
Yeah, like some that can culturally last too. Yeah, and a lot of this stuff. I mean, the Legos too. We had what's his name, the Lego guy. He talked a bunch about it, and he's pretty good at that shit and knows a lot about it. But to me, the part with the Legos where, man, if you get the wrong set and you dump like, let's say 10K into a set, which isn't like a ton of money, if you're buying $100 set or whatever, it's just 100 things of them. If you're wrong, that's like a 3-year recoup on your investment, and it's hard to liquidate them, and you're going to get like a big loss in the meantime with fees and shipping. That's where I kind of deterred from that stuff. But now that I'm looking at all these Legos I bought in 2020 and they're all worth like 5x more, that seems pretty good. But
Yeah. And I mean, I guess the counter argument to specifically that, and also if you're gonna do collector type stuff with Amazon as the platform you're gonna sell on, like what if you get gated in Lego?
I did.
Like,
So yeah.
so like, but then you can still sell on eBay and still get like a good price for some of this stuff.
Yeah. And Walmart now. Yeah, that's
Oh, yeah.
what somebody told me. I said I have 50K in Legos. Like literally, I bet I have even more than that. And I can't sell them on Amazon now. He's like, why don't you sell them on Walmart? I'm like, oh yeah, that's a simple solution.
Maybe I should eat some Legos on Walmart.
I bet it would work. Yeah.
It probably would. Just the hard thing is like my forte is not like giving like the item being pristine once it gets to the customer. Unfortunately, I'm like that's like I'd be better suited to sell something that has the lowest return rate possible because like these eBay sellers are nuts. So with a collectible item, yeah, I'd have to do my own prep or like tell my prep center like, look, if there's bends and creases in these, we need to just return it item not as described because these people are going to be annoyed with me and just return it.
Yeah. What else can we talk about here? You got any other questions for us? Man, this has been the quickest hour ever. No wonder we went 2 hours last time.
It's really been an hour. Oh my gosh. Let's see.
How much stuff do you have to return that you buy from eBay because it's not what they said it was or doesn't, I don't know, look correct?
Yeah, we're starting returns every day.
Damn.
Yep.
Whoa.
You might be.
How is their policy? Do you have any issue?
Almost always we can return the item and get a refund. It just requires some following up and knowing how eBay's returns work, which is not that hard, but it's scary if you haven't done it before with a expensive item.
And you do electronics, right?
Electronics, office supplies, computer accessories, some health and household.
I'm curious. You don't have to even like hint at answering this if this is going to hurt in any way. But if you said the stuff you sold like right now, would your business be impacted? I feel like there's a skill gap between like what you do. Like even if you told me a bunch of stuff, I couldn't even do it. Is that true? Or if you gave me enough alpha, I could like kind of cut into your share?
You probably could. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like if you have the Amazon skill, I think that's the main thing. And if you know how to build some systems around it, that's another thing. But I mean, like if someone wants to go like buy a Bluetooth, that's so funny. The example that I thought of, I literally don't know how to say it, but like a Bluetooth like me thermometer. I think it's like a Joule like Sobi or something.
Yeah.
Like if you want to buy one of those, like awesome, but you have to like know, yeah, you have to be able to like snipe it when it comes on eBay because most of these things like they don't just sit there at like $60 potential profit for days and days. Like it's like if it's 80% ROI and 60 profit, like it's not going to be sitting there for hours and hours. Like you have to like set some safe searches or something. In order to get these. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought I started playing golf this summer. So I was like, maybe I'll start reselling some golf stuff on the side. And I noticed it was a lot like that. Like I would see stuff, I'll be refreshing Facebook Marketplace daily and there'd be like some crazy putter that somebody would sell for $80 that was worth like 200 on eBay. And I'm like, man, this would be like a full-time job unless I had, like you said, you probably have softwares in place to do that stuff. And on eBay, I'm sure it's good too. I could just buy a golf set for $150, flip it. Shipping's not even nearly as much as I thought it would be. So that stuff is profitable. I'm sure it's the same type of way. I just thought there's no way I can do this. It would take too much time.
Yeah, I think you could do it. Again, it is the type of thing I remember you said like you were thinking about the same thing with like Joji's model. And you're like, oh, it would just be so easy. And then you actually like get into it and there's actually like a few more things that you have to get used to. And you have to like build the systems around it and it has to feel like smooth and easy to do in order to do it well. But like once you do that, it's not that bad, but you gotta put some time into it. I mean, from my perspective, you definitely could. like you know how to find the deals.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, one thing that's funny to me is like all this stuff that I've done over the past year, it's like such a mental game. Like all this stuff's just mental. Like do not give up. And it is always way harder than it seems, but it's like not as hard as it seems. Just like keep doing it. I always think about like all the people I've coached, the like social media DMs and stuff. And I'm like, how are these people struggling with Amazon? Then I'd started other shit and I'm like, yeah, I see why. This stuff is like, you really have a dissonance from what's the reality once you've been doing it for a while.
Because it's like you've been like someone who's doing a certain business model, they just have all their systems in place. Like it's easy. For example, Amazon's API change, it was so annoying because like I'm just so used to like I have an SOP in place for my VAs to list items once they're at the prep center. And so like inventory lab wasn't working anymore. And so we like listed items, but they're not actually for sale on Amazon. So we have to go back and like make sure items are actually getting listed. So we tried Go To Lister, still wasn't working. Had to refix all those batches. So now we're just listing through Seller Central and then updating Inventory Lab with the buy costs. And like I'm not sourcing this whole time because I'm fixing these issues. So that's just like how it goes if your systems aren't in place. It's just frustrating and irritating.
Yeah. And if you have no clue what you're doing, that stuff's like way more difficult. I can see if it's a struggle for you, imagine how it is for somebody doing like 2K a month.
Terrible time to start Amazon if you like write as like your basis for like the very business model is buy something for low, sell it for high. Like you need to be able to be comfortable with putting an item up for sale. And then you can't put an item up for sale. Like, well, sucks to be you.
For sure. You got any good cues, John?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point that you like say. You know, I think that's kind of where a lot of people get caught up too. It's like it seems easy, right, to walk into a Walmart, you know, just go to the clearance section. That's like the easy part. Like the hard part is listing it, pricing it, what to do with it when it doesn't sell, what to do with it when it gets returned. Like, where is all the money? Like you were talking about before. Like, how much does Inventory Labs really capture? Um, and they don't really have a good answer for that either. I mean, I guess that's why it's important to have like an accountant or whatever. But I don't know. What do you see like your future with Amazon, or like where are you headed?
I'm gonna keep doing Amazon until the wheels fall off. I have two VAs right now. I hired a second one a couple months ago, and she's been doing really well. And my first one is training the second one, so that's going well. But also just recognize that Amazon might not be the platform anymore in the future. So I'm learning how to buy and sell houses right now, and that seems like it's not really a platform dependent type thing. Like you could always just list it with the realtor, and like if it's a good piece of property, it's going to sell. And you just have to make sure you get it for the right price. So that's probably my professional like path. I think I want to learn how to do that and get really good at that, because here's the interesting thing, like kind of like what Drew was saying, like doing the risk versus reward, like is this really going to get me rich and then like in the next 5-10 years or whatever. Like if you watch Amazon videos and like you know how like the person on YouTube like kind of has a promise or an expectation of how much money you're going to make per month. A lot of people like throw around like, yeah, you can work 5 to 10 hours a week and you can make your like 5 to 10K profit a month probably. That's probably the ballpark of what people say on Amazon, unless you're like this big wholesaler. And the promise is maybe to make more. If you watch like real estate flipping videos and like all that type of content, like their promises are much higher. Like there's people who are doing 500K profit a year, a million profit a year. Now a lot of those people are leveraged out of their minds in order to do that. But it's just an interesting thing to think about. Like, okay, like not everyone's going to get to 5 to 10K profit a month reselling, and not everyone's going to get to the real estate like kind of cliche promise of a YouTube video. But like that does hold some truth of like, okay, like maybe the realistic reseller is going to get to 2 to 4K a month. And then if the same percentages apply, like awesome, you get to 300-400K a year with real estate. it just seems like a better opportunity if you like to buy and sell things. So
Yeah, I like that. That's the exact reason I stopped the Amazon is because I saw these other like claims, like you're saying, are like, what's the norm or whatever? Not norm, but what's the high end here? And it's like with Amazon, what is the high end? Like, I think the richest seller I know probably makes like 500K, 600K profit a year, and then takes home like a large percentage of that. So the person that takes home the most, probably a few $100,000 a year or whatever, it's like, dude, that's not rich, you know. Like you pay taxes on that and then you pay for your expenses. Like a few $100,000 a year is not rich at all. So can you make $1 million profit in your bank a year with that model? If you can't, I mean, how good is that? You know, so, but with the real estate stuff, like you said, I mean, you could probably get to $1 million a year, especially if you compound it out with other things, not just exactly the model that you're talking about, you know, a bunch of different real estate. There's people making like, that's where most of the millionaires are made. Right. So yeah, that's kind of the thing that I thought about too. It's like what model has the highest potential and upside here? Not what's the easiest or what's the, you know, can give me the 5 to 10K a month. That's like, yeah, it'll get you out of your job, but I mean, that's about it, right?
and all this still like is dependent on like you have to be like good at the thing, and
Yeah.
like there's a big time gap between beginning and getting good at something.
So what? We're talking about future. So I should have asked this. What is do you have like a goal money wise or like lifestyle wise? Do you have something? We may have talked about this in the last, but I don't remember. Do you have something like an ideal life that you want to live? It sounds like you do want to be, you know, relatively rich if you've looked at things in the way that you have.
I am caring a lot more about. I think I'm not like. I feel like I've made a good amount of money to the point where I need to stop thinking about like, okay, how do I like survive? Like I don't need to just be gauging everything through like, okay, I need to do this to survive. I need to make sure I'm working a lot in order to keep growing everything. Like I'm setting aside like 15 to 30 hours a week of like things I want to do with like my personal life, my emotional, mental, spiritual health. Like I took a somatic therapy course to like grow and learn about that type of stuff and like how to um, work with my nervous system better and like actually enjoy life more rather than just uh, like scarcity, try to make as much money as possible type of stuff. Trying to work on my health more. But then also like putting time into work because you don't want to balance too far to the other side and be like, I'm just going to be a little fairy and just like not work on work. And like, I'm just going to go like driving my van in the mountains all the time. Just like, cool. I made my $1,400 a month to pay my bills. Yeah, but you're not excellent at anything or helping anyone. So gotta find the balance there.
Yeah. So what do you think do you have any like numbers? And I don't want to put like arbitrary numbers on it, but do you have anything that you're like, this would be ideally where I'd be at? You know, how old are you?
I'm 31.
Okay. So let's give it a 3 to 5 year. That's the most typical thing ever on a podcast. Where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? Is there like a number, net worth or income wise that you're like 3 to 5 years, I'd like to be here?
You know, I I'd have to think about that. I don't know. I think in 3 to 5 years, um, if I keep making similar money, I think I'll be over the $1 million mark at that point. Especially if stuff compounds, um, and especially if I keep making more money. Like if the real estate goes well and I start learning that skill really well, it could happen sooner.
Yeah. I wanted to be a millionaire by 25, but I'm 26 and I don't make any money. So we're just extending the goal out a little bit. I think I also understand, like you were talking about the compounding thing. I think that when I was younger, when you're young in general, you're just like, I want to have this much money by this age. And then you kind of understand that you'll get that much money at some point if you really go for it, but you just have no clue when that's going to come. Like you trying to like force that to happen all the time is not exactly how it works. So like there's one day that you're probably not even going to realize that you're just going to wake up and just have $1 million or $3 million or whatever, because it's just going to compound really, really fast. And that's how it works. But that stuff's kind of difficult to understand and like put a time frame on that type of thing.
Yeah, because it's interesting. Like if you're learning a new skill, like Drew, you've continued to learn how to buy and sell crypto in a profitable way, and John, you're learning how to do um, um, influencer program and like creating videos for people to buy products from them. Like all these things are increment it's like there's exponential progress, like you're saying. Like it's just like you learn the basics of things, then you get a little better, and then there's like a big jump, and then you're at a different point, and then there's a big jump. It seems like that's how things end up working,
Yeah.
which is
But it's hard to like conceptualize that at all.
yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely the hard part too, because the only reason I was able to really have the influencer program take off so quickly is because I really understood Amazon. I knew what an ASIN was. I knew how to look something up. I knew, hey, this sells really fast. Hey, there's something weird here or weird there, or this is somewhere to look. So, but without doing Amazon first, I don't know if I would have been able to do that because I wouldn't have a YouTube channel, wouldn't have an Instagram page where like that helped me get approved. Like having 13K followers on Instagram definitely gets a lot of free shit sent to my house just because like they're like, oh wow, like he has a following. Versus if I just started from scratch or bought a bunch of followers. So yeah, without the YouTube channel, like, or yeah, even Instagram, like we're not doing this podcast right now because I would have known Drew most likely, or Seth for that matter. So it's definitely really interesting. Do you see a lot of correlation between, I guess, kind of flipping on eBay and Amazon and kind of the houses? What you're doing with the house flipping?
It's literally just buy asset for low, sell it for higher. And once you have gone through the process of doing both sides of it, buying something at a discounted price and then selling it correctly for a generally good price, and you're comfortable with the whole situation, like just think how much it unlocks for you guys, like that the average person doesn't have, that you can just like you could find like a $60 item in your house and you're like, I don't want this anymore, but like whatever it sells for $60 on Amazon, I can just sell this and get my like $43 back. Like that's just something that most people don't know how to do. And it's just a helpful skill to be able to get money. And if you could do that with houses, like that's a pretty big deal because stuff falls through the cracks there. Um, so yeah, I think it relates. It's just a different business model, but it's similar, I think.
Yeah, it seems niche too. I've never even heard about what you're talking about. So it's funny how you got these like niche routes of like a larger type thing. I feel like that's probably your specialty of doing stuff. But yeah, it's just like you're kind of doing the same niche thing, like falling through the like kind of what you're doing is like treasure hunting. Really, it's kind of your business model, right? You're like hunting for treasures that other people you assume won't have due to technology or just due to them just not knowing any better. So that's probably the thing. You'll probably be very good at that. Except for instead of flipping something from 40 into 90, you'll flip something from like 40K into 90K, which is way cooler.
We like that.
And I assume we can talk about this a little bit. The downside of these houses that you'd be buying, they're probably liquid. Like you could probably get rid of them pretty quickly, especially how hot like housing market is. You're probably not going to take too big of losses. Like how much do you expect to pay for these houses? What's the average? You know, is it like a 40, 50K or is it going to be like 170, 180K? How much is the downside here?
It so depends on where you're gonna buy, because like I was gonna do an auction in King County, Washington, and the average price of a house in King County, Washington, that's the county that has Seattle in it. I think it was like 800K for the average house. So like if you're gonna try to get something super discounted there, like let's say like I get lucky and I find something for 25% of market value, like that's still like I can do math quick. That's like 200K. That's a lot. Or you could do something in like the Midwest or something, and like the average price of a house is much less. Um, so I decided to do stuff in Ohio, and I purchased a property for 25,500, and I'm getting ready to sell that now.
We're out in Ohio, can you say?
Cleveland.
Okay. Yeah, I have a friend.
Wow.
What do you think you'll sell it for? Repeat that.
So right now we're in the process of making sure that there is nobody living there. We've we just need to make sure that like basically we changed the locks, and we're just making sure that we've given the previous owner enough chance to like get whatever remaining stuff in their house is there, because we just want to do things well for them and legally as well. Um, so based on the condition of the inside of the house, we'll probably sell it anywhere between 45 and like 60,000 probably.
We have to put new work into it.
We're not going to do any work on it.
Okay, so is that your plan? Kind of, you don't want to be renovating shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like a massive headache, and where you can just end up eating all your cost and your time, probably.
Yeah, I mean, like Amazon, there's all these different business models, like, and they all like feed into each other. So I'm very happy to sell to a fix and flipper who sees like, oh, maybe this is worth 120,000 after I put 40,000 into it, and if the math works out right, they can make good money too. Like, wonderful, please flip me and like buy this from me.
Did you buy it with straight cash?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. So are you going to try to run that? It's just straight cash? That doesn't sound like too realistic.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go leveraged on this. I don't think I'm going to get hard money or anything. Because, like, still stuff could go wrong. So I don't want to, like, be leveraged and then, like, whoops, lost 150K. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely don't want to be on that end, because I guess the mistakes you can make there are like really big mistakes. Like if you get $100,000 house and you make just a 10% mistake, that's 10 G's. That's like that's a big L.
Yeah, or what if you send the wire transfer wrong or something on the purchase?
Yeah,
terrifying.
Do you want to scale it up a lot more this year? I didn't even know you'd already purchased one. That's dope. So do you want to keep getting them?
Yeah, I just like right now I just want to go through the process so that like I feel comfortable with it, because every new step is like, all right, now we got to like change the locks. Like, how the hell do I do this? I need to convince this realtor to like work with a locksmith and get this figured out. And like, oh, we got to pay for this property. Like, got to make sure to send the payment right, or else there's issues with it. So I just want to go through this one process and then probably try to do it another couple times, and then if it goes well, I'll pull more money from Amazon and maybe do 2 at a time. Hopefully, my goal is to make like 60K this year from it. So I think I can do that. It might be shooting low, but it needs to like actually happen and go well. So we'll see.
Well, how much are you going to make? Let's say you sell that house that you just got for 45. What are you going to make?
I have it'll be around 7K in costs, like with realtor, changing locks. I had to purchase, I had to have people go take pictures of like a bunch of different properties from this auction and other auctions, so that I didn't buy something like completely stupid. Like at this auction, for example, there were 8 properties that were in condemned condition that basically can't be sold until something is fixed. And it's just a little bit of a government nightmare. So I could have bought one of those and lost money. Ooh. So thankfully, I'd had pictures taken. So anyways, about 7K of costs. So that would be 12.5K profit. So.
And then there's no like fee you pay on it, or how is the tax situation? That's too complicated. You just think it'll be around there?
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to pay taxes on that profit for sure.
Yeah, but real estate, you can like roll it into other houses and stuff, right? And I saw someone, this is like a Grant Cardone type thing, but he was like, you can like real estate is the tax code is built for that, literally, for you to like hide your profit in real estate, basically.
Oh dang! So I'm so new to this. So like, let's say I like made the 60K in the year, I could just put the 60K into another property come December and not pay taxes for another year until I flip it, and just keep doing that.
I don't know shit. I just think that. Yes, I don't know. Like I literally know nothing.
I'll get some more professional advice on that.
But I think that I know for a fact that the tax code's set up to where it benefits people that do real estate. Yeah.
Yeah. Shoot, I forgot about that. Of course.
Yeah, it's like the big reason people get into it. It's like you don't have to pay as many taxes on things.
Yep.
Yeah, it's sweet. Oh, we're an hour and 20. What else? You want to keep going?
I'm up for it if you guys are. I don't know what else we have to talk about, but
I'm kind of curious if you can talk about it. How did you find the house?
basically, there are tax deed auctions that are for every county, and every county does them at different times a year. Sometimes it's just once a year per county. Sometimes it's a few times a year. Um, I'm part of a course program that is helping me learn how to do it. So they just have a big map of the entire country, and like when these auctions are. So that was helpful for that.
You have to get any certifications?
No certifications.
And you just have, so literally all this is this a website, or are there a bunch of different websites like that?
This is I'm taking super. It's a little it's an interesting like online information product, but it's Ted Thomas's um, buy and sell tax deed um, program. And so one of their things is they have a big map of every single state and all the different stats about the states, because every state does it differently, and sometimes every county does it differently. So it's a little complicated, but I mean, you could literally just go to, let's say you're in Texas or something, and you want to do El Paso. I don't even know the counties in Texas, but like you want to do like an auction in a particular county, you can just like look up that county and like tax deed sale and read the rules on it, do that. But every state does it differently.
Yeah. And then you just have a separate LLC, separate bank account that you just put money into.
I have a separate LLC. I have a separate bank account. Speaking of wire issues, I did have a wire issue with the payment for this property, so I might not be using this bank anymore because they made a pretty big mistake on my wire. So that was,
they did.
My bank did. Yeah, it was a whole nightmare. That was the ups and downs that we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast. I had to spend 3-4 weeks working with the online platform that sells these properties in my bank to get this resolved, because I had $20,000 like out in the nether that like didn't get resolved for like a month.
And is this a big bank, or is this a small bank you went with?
Is Blue Vine.
I don't even heard of that. Is it big?
It's I think it's like a mid-sized bank. It's kind of like, it's just an online bank. A friend of mine has them, and I chose them because like you can do like sub accounts. Like you can have like 5-6 sub accounts, and I wanted that. Just the problem is that they send their wires through a third party, and so for some reason this third party changed the account information when they sent my wire to this Real Auction account. So basically, Real Auction, when they gave me a refund for the wire, they saw the information that my bank gave them and sent it back to me the wrong way.
That's crazy.
It was a super hairy, weird situation. I'm still waiting for my check back from them, but it's like 95% resolved.
Just go with Chase Bank, man. Chase Bank can never go wrong.
Yeah, I probably should. Yeah.
They're easy, man. That's how I do all my bank with is Chase, and it's like they give you a rep once you get to a certain like amount of money, and it's like super easy to deal with.
Yeah,
but it's okay.
I have a rep with Blue Vine, but it just wasn't helpful.
so that's the whole process. Then you just send the wire to this place. You don't have to have anything else. It's like as simple as it is. And then when you go to sell it, you just go through you find a realtor that'll sell it for you, or what?
Yeah, I mean, for the auctions, most of these, they all have different rules, so 100% read the rules. Most of them you need a deposit in order to even bid. So like this one, it was a $5,000 deposit, which is kind of irritating, but I guess it keeps people out. And then when you sell it, list with the realtor, or if you can do it yourself, you can do that. I'm new, so I'm gonna do it with the realtor for sure.
Do you think there's like enough? Because this sounds so simple that it seems like it's with the arbitrage here would be kind of like difficult to get. But I mean, you're already doing it. Do you think this is something that like a lot of people do? Like, how much money is there to make? I guess you did say people make $1 million a year, but yeah, it just seems so simple, right? I must be missing a lot though.
I think well, like number one, it's really like it was a big learning curve learning how to do due diligence on real estate.
Yeah.
And this is like non-conventional due diligence because you can't even see inside these houses. So there's a lot of risk when it comes to
Oh,
that. So you literally just have to build in like, okay, I have to bid so low on this and win this so low that like because my property that I won, like it's like literally part of the front of the roof is off of the house and it's still worth the 45 to 60K. If it was in perfect condition, it would probably be worth 90 to 100K. But there's going to be major things that's wrong with it. So you just have to bake in the fact that like whoever is like, let's say I was going to buy and fix it and flip it, like I might have to do a new kitchen and a new bathroom and a new roof. So you have to bake that into like what you're willing to pay for stuff. So like honestly, I think this is the business model I'm doing, I'm realizing, I think it's more like the whole, like if you look at the different hierarchies of reselling, if you want to compare it to that, I think this is probably like the thrifting, sell on eBay type of
oh,
model to real estate. Because I think most of the time, like I'm getting something, it's going to be higher margin, which is awesome. But like things could go wrong, and there's like I can't do complete due diligence of the inside of the house when I'm purchasing. Um, but it could be high margin, and then if it is high margin, I can sell it to a fix and flipper who then renovates it, who might even sell it to a wholesaler, and then sell it to someone who's trying to rent it out. So there's, but then all those people further on, like they're getting a smaller margin, but they can do proper due diligence on the house. They can get it inspected as much as they want. So they know what they're working with a little bit more, but their margin's probably going to be smaller.
and so you're a little bit like gambling on if the house is good or not.
A little bit, yeah. That's why I'm like, I need to like get this property for like 25% of the after repair value of the house, or else I'm just not going to buy it. Like I'm not paying 50% for this because probably something will be wrong.
When you were bidding on this one, how many people were bidding against you? Where do you see that?
It seemed like there was one other person bidding against me. My max bid I was going to pay for this was 25.7, and it went up to 25.5.
Oh, and then they almost priced you out.
Yeah, they almost did. Well, okay, so I bid up to 25.1, but there were $500 of fees that I had to pay. So um, now here's there were two things like about is there money to be made with this? So I did another auction in Washington before this, and to this auction I was only going to bring 20K. I had researched like 40 properties. There was one that I valued at around 230K. Um, I figured I would still get pictures of this property and bid on it, but like I'm if I'm going to pay 20K, I'm probably not going to get this $230,000 house. So I bid on this property, and the person who won the property won it for 29,000 for what I thought was a $230,000 house. So I think they, like, let's say they sold it for 50% of the value because the inside was trashed or whatever. Like I've been talking about, like that's like 75K. And
Yeah.
then even in this auction that I went to, I messed up the deposit. So for the first property, I hadn't transferred it to the right account, and I was going to pay up to 25,000 for this first property, and I wasn't able to bid on it because my deposit was wrong, and it sold for 18K.
Ooh.
So, like, I would have gotten it for, well, he probably would have kept bidding up, but whoever this person was, like, just 7K alone to get to your max bid, and you were baking in profit there. So, like, there are like chances, but like you have to like take pictures of all the property or like have someone go take pictures. And then like I went to another whole auction um, before the Washington one, and like there were no good looks at all. And I spent like a lot of time researching. So it just really depends on the day and who's there.
It's pretty interesting.
It's fascinating. I think it's fun.
Yeah, it sounds fun. It's like I like the basicness of it. You know, a lot of that stuff I never even deal with. I try to even get into real estate stuff because I always feel like it's so complicated. But the way you've explained this, it's like this is like relatively simple to understand, which is cool.
The thing is there is a lot of like due diligence stuff. Like there's so many landmines that you could step on. It's just it is you do have to spend a lot of time like learning about this stuff because yeah, you could buy some stupid stuff pretty quick.
Yeah, and then you get in the hole, and then you're just done.
Yeah, and then you go through a whole real estate transaction where you lost like 6K because like you bought a piece of land that's not buildable, or like you bought a condemned property that like you can't sell until you get this fixed and you lose money in. Or like I've heard this a lot of times, like someone buys a landlocked piece of land that you can't access. It's like okay, like yeah, like 4 acres of land in California, like of course it's valuable, but like if it's landlocked and you can't get to it, like how are you going to sell it? Um, but that's a business model in and of itself. Some people will like work with other landowners and like try to get legal access to the piece of land that they bought undervalued so they can sell it for market. Um, just so many little niches that you can do.
So are these auctions that you go to, are they online?
There are some online ones and there are some in-person ones. I've just done the online ones.
Okay, so is the process is you're looking through like let's say all these houses, you're like, I think I want to like go to this auction, but before the auction you have to send someone to take pictures. So you know what you're doing?
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting. Is there any like recourse if like maybe or it's like if you buy it, you buy it?
You buy it, you buy it.
Damn.
Now, one thing I guarantee that you run into is a bunch of these states have really uh, liberal laws about people staying in their houses, right? Like that, I know probably Washington's one of them. Like you can't legally kick someone out of a house, even if they don't live there, right? I know some places are like that.
Uh, Thankfully, when it comes to tax deed auctions, the laws are a lot more in the favor of the person buying the house,
Okay.
as opposed to like a renter situation.
Okay. Okay.
But still, you need to like follow procedures and like make sure you just do things right when you do purchase the property. Like Washington, for example, it is a state like even as far as the whole like um, you haven't paid your property taxes in 2 3 years, you're going to lose your house. In Washington, there's a special rule that they can literally pay their property taxes the day before the auction and still keep their house. So like what happened a couple times is I've researched like 20 properties and then like 16 of them redeem like within like the last 2 weeks. So that's, I mean, honestly, like I kind of think it should be that way because like why lose your house if
Yeah.
you're like if you don't have to, like that's great. It just does make research a little bit unfortunate if you pay someone to go take pictures of 20 properties and then there's only 4 left.
What's the process to get people out of these houses? Is it just call the cops, or do the cops even care?
Um,
You can't manually remove them, I'm sure. You can't just go in there and rough them up and say, "This is mine now, my house now."
you're supposed to post like in a notice on the outside of their door, and I think like it's different for every state. You give them like a few days to leave the property, um, and then at that point, um, if you think that it's vacant, like you see that the utilities haven't been paid and they're off, like there's reason to believe that it's vacant, and you've posted a notice. In most situations, I think you can go change the locks with a locksmith once the title is in your name, and then the locks are changed. But then if someone's living there and they just refuse to leave, you could try to just work with them peacefully and just like, hey, like, can I just give you $1,000 for your keys? Just the cash for keys thing.
Okay.
or you have to go through an eviction, which is just more legal and takes longer. So it's
Yeah,
just
I remember watching a movie like that. They would do the cash for keys. They would like kick people out of their houses and like give them, X amount of money for their keys. And this guy would sell the houses. I don't remember what the movie was, but it sounds it might actually be exactly what you're talking about. And he might have been doing this type of thing. I wish I could remember the movie name, but I remember they would go and like, hey, your house is done. You haven't paid this thing. You got to get out of here.
yeah, and like there's all these different questions about like how to do things legally and correctly and in order and not stepping on landmines that like it's a lot. I think it's going to be a lot easier once I've actually gone through the whole process and done it, because like it's a bit weird of a situation. Like with this one, we had reason to believe that it was vacant, because like we hadn't seen the person. We checked a couple times. The utilities were off, so we went and changed the locks. But then the realtor found the contact information of the owner, um, and he's like, I swing by there to get mail every once in a while. And I don't know. It's just a weird situation. All of his stuff is still in there, so we need to like contact him and like set up a time for him to get his stuff, and hopefully it's not a problem. So like I'm kind of just trying to take action and get through this, and hopefully everything goes fine. But um,
That's interesting. So is his stuff technically yours at this point, or it doesn't work?
no, I need to give him like I think pretty black and white. I need to give him like a solid chance to get his stuff back, and to pick up his stuff, which like, sure, like whatever, like please get your stuff.
That's tough because that could really jam you up. Like if they are kind of like taking their time.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be like, okay, we're gonna give you like 3 weeks to get your stuff. Like it's like, okay, here's 7 days. Like contact my realtor, set up a time to pick up the stuff, and then move on. Like I need to, like again, this is my first time, so I should know the legal of this better, because that's a bit scary.
Yeah, I hate to sound like pretentious here, but I feel like a little problem that you'll run into is people that are living in a house that is worth that value that haven't paid their property taxes, which is probably not that hefty of a bill, might have some personal issues that they don't give a shit if you have to deal with. Like I like drug people and stuff like that. I feel like that might be because I've heard stories of people like getting kicked out of their house. They're like, I'm just gonna shit everywhere, like because they're on drugs. So I feel like that might be you'll have to next pod. You'll have to come on and see if you have any of those stories. But I do think that, like, I don't know,
Definitely
man.
put that in the
I'm from
intro.
like poorer areas, so like I see these houses that I could just imagine, and I'm like, yeah, if I got kicked out of there and I was that person, like, where else am I gonna move? I'm just gonna like ruin your life. Like that would be my goal.
Yep, yep. That's why you don't want to pay 50% of the value.
Because you assume this person might burn it down.
Like,
Okay. Yeah, you assume they may burn it down once you take it from them.
yeah, yeah. I mean, at that point, I think hopefully those people would know that they're gonna. Then at that point, they've done something worthy of going to jail for
Yeah.
like 11 years. Um, but yeah, yeah, they probably do have some personal issues.
And also where you're that this is like a high margin thing. So like if you're buying something for 25K and you're making 12K on it, you can do that 3 times and then completely lose a house and still be in the profit. So that's like pretty good if you're running that type of margin.
Yeah, and I mean the goal was to be higher margin too. So
Yeah. So that's ideal. It's like you can afford to get a $25,000 house. The worst stuff ever happened. You're just like, okay, I don't even care what happens to that. I'll just lose the 25 grand because I've already made 60 in the last month and a half or whatever.
yeah, and that's why I'm glad that I got this wire thing dealt with, because I'm like to make a mistake where like okay, like I like something went wrong about the flip itself, and like it was a skill issue. Like okay, sure, like if I lose 10-20K, like that's a learning
Yeah.
thing, but it did not feel like worth, like it just felt like the dumbest mistake to like deal with a wire issue. Like it wasn't really even my fault necessarily, or like there was one part of it, like I messed up the transaction. Like part of it was my fault, and then part of it was the bank's fault, and like it was completely preventable. So just felt so stupid.
Yeah, I mean, probably frustrating bad too. I'd say you're not happy.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the good part about like doing this higher margin. And once I get better at it, maybe I can do the online arbitrage version of real estate and like do a little bit slightly higher margin or slightly lower margin, but like maybe safer. I don't know. We'll see.
You let me know how it goes throughout the year. I'll pay you. You can be my mentor with that stuff. That sounds interesting. I think that sounds fun. If
Same.
you all it requires is capital. So if you have like, I should have been doing that for a while. You know, I don't even mind. I lose 20 grand on trading shit coins. So that's probably way better to buy shit houses than try to
At
sell
least
them.
you'd have a house.
Exactly. At least
End
have
of it.
somewhere to live.
It might have shit in the corners from the last person, but it's worth something.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Huh.
It was super interesting. Like for fun, I was just looking on Redfin, basically Zillow. Um, like in Colorado, I live in Colorado, and like most everything for a house is like 4, 5, 6, 700K. I found a house that sold in I think La Junta, like some weird east southeast town that sold for 40K, and it literally didn't have floors. Like it was mud, like no floors, everything destroyed. But it was like a 2 bedroom house for 40K. It's like, what on earth is going on here?
What do you do there? I would assume you probably try to sell it to somebody who does that stuff for like you just take a big L but try not to zero out.
Well, I mean, I didn't purchase this. I was just looking at solds because I was just
Yeah, I
curious.
mean, like I wonder what you would do if that was you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the situation of the seller was. Like, did they have the house for a long time and it just completely got destroyed, or did they get it at some kind of tax deed auction and they overpaid for it because they looked at the Zillow picture and didn't look like at any condition anything and they overpaid and they took an L, or did they get it for so cheap they're still going to be able to sell it for profit to a fix and flipper? I don't know.
Did you said you had people take pictures? Could they not just go like close to in the house, or is that illegal?
You're saying like go close to the house?
Yeah, like try to get in through the windows and try to take pictures that way.
Yeah, I thought I wasn't able to do that, so I just had them take pictures of the outside. But my mentor was telling me that like, yeah, you can have people like go up to the windows and it's fine.
Yeah,
So yeah, that would have been a better thing to do.
yeah. And who are you paying to do this?
It was a mentor from the Ted Thomas.
No, not that. I mean, I meant take the pictures. Sorry.
Oh, the pictures. It's like a service called iView It.
Okay.
There's just a couple online services. It's basically like an Uber for taking real estate pictures.
Oh, cool.
But
Wow, that's insane. That's pretty cool.
all these different services for all these different business models.
Yeah.
Whole ecosystem.
I'm gonna like that the previous skills thing.
Yeah.
Stack it on top of each other. Yeah, I've definitely noticed that. Somebody had sent me. I said something on the pod, John. I forgot to tell you this, and somebody sent me a video of like that. Some like big influencer guy saying that, like similar to what I did. I had no clue who he was, but he was saying that he made 120 grand as like a third year of business, and then didn't make money for like whatever, and then started making like 500K based off this stuff that he had done in the beginning that he didn't use throughout the whole time. And I was like, that's pretty cool. Like it kind of shows you how it all like stacks on top of each other like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think looking back, I think it's always so hard as like an entrepreneur. Like before Seth even got here, Drew was like basically questioning his life, basically like should he keep doing crypto or not, because like it's just not going well, and like what point to like cut it or whatever. But like what Seth was saying when you were gone, it's like, well, it seems like you really enjoy the crypto, right? I really enjoy doing the influencer program. Like I don't really enjoy doing Amazon as much, that much. Like just knowing what I know now about the influencer program, I wish I started the influencer program when it came out. And it's just funny that I don't know, I just wasn't aware of it. Like, because I think that's just funny in general. I don't know if you were aware of house flipping, but maybe because it's like somewhat mainstream. Maybe not exactly what you're doing, but the idea of like buying a house, selling it for more money or whatever. But I guess it's like interesting. It's like you don't think to look for this stuff until you're kind of frustrated with the situation or you find it more risky. You're just like, all right, it's time for the next thing. And it always like kind of sucks too, because it's like, well, I can continue scaling this Amazon business to do like $2-3 million a year, because that's what I know. It's like I don't really like it anymore. I'm finding it more and more risky. Like the thought of starting all over again sucks. And it did suck, like, because I started the influencer program last February, and now I'm like, oh wow, this is amazing. Like I've learned so much. Like I'm so happy I did take that chance and do it. But it could have been just as easy, like, not to do the influencer program.
Right.
Life gets pretty boring if you just do stuff that you don't like.
Yeah, big
Like,
time.
like okay, like if you're grinding and you're like maybe you're in debt or like you haven't built up any kind of net worth at all, like maybe it's worth doing stuff that you don't like for a little while. But like in my opinion, like I think most people should like grind a little bit and then like figure out what they like ASAP.
Yeah, I think there's like a difference between like some people say, following your passions, and some people are like, that's the dumbest idea. I think it's more so you have to do stuff you don't like when it comes to like the micro, but the macro needs to be something you like. If you really enjoy the house flipping, for example, you have to deal with the people that shit in the floors, and you have to deal with stuff like that. That's the micro stuff you don't want to deal with, but you have to, because this larger picture, you like it more. When it's like, if you just didn't like the whole thing, you're never going to make it work. But if you can deal with the micro stuff, expect like Amazon, for example, if you don't mind to do the bookkeeping, if you don't mind to, sell your returns and that stuff, then it's really easy overall. But like that stuff's going to suck, but you just have to do that kind of stuff you don't like. But if you don't like the whole thing, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, and you can like eventually build systems around some of these things as well.
Mhm.
Like I'm like I guess the shortcut system for at least this situation is like, okay, if there's a defect with the house, like number one, I'm not going to Ohio and fixing it myself. Number two, I'm not even delegating to hire someone to fix it for me and dealing with that whole situation, because that's like that always takes longer than usual most of the time, and like takes effort in following up with people, etc. Like almost the system is just like, okay, well, just like sell it for less so that it makes sense for someone else. So there's just different ways that you can get around some of these issues. Like you could, if you don't like bookkeeping, you could hire a bookkeeper at a certain point. But if you're just starting, maybe you need to do it all.
Yep. I should give some more context. You asked me about the crypto stuff at the beginning, and the reason that I've stuck with it, and not that just I'm addicted to gambling now or anything, but one of the first trades I made was through this like Peanut the Squirrel. That was the meme coin. And I put in $157 and I sold it and lost $20. 12 days later, the amount that I bought was worth $38 million.
What?
Not 2 months, not 4 months. 12 days later, if I would have just bought that 157 and kept it, I could have been worth $38 million. And that immediately, then I didn't know, this was like my first week of trading. I didn't even know any better. So I was like, whatever. And then literally last week, I was trading like I normally do. Something had just graduated. So it reached 100K. It dumped completely to like 80K. I bought $250 worth. Then it dumped even more to 50K. But I had saw looking on Twitter that this guy with 60,000 Twitter followers had tweeted this picture, and it was called Jelly Jelly. And it was him and his friends on FaceTime. It was not like a professional thing, but the guy had 60,000 followers. And in his bio, it said ex founder of Venmo. And I was like, this isn't real. Like this guy, somebody bought an account and is faking this to like rug pull and like, steal people's money. Well, I bought again though at like 50K. So now I have like $343 in this thing. Well, I was right, and it was real. Like it wasn't a lie. I doubled down for the right reason. It immediately shoots up to like $1 million. I end up making $5,500 in less than 30 minutes on this trade from $340. But at the top, and this was within 2 hours, it would have been worth $1.1 million. And I can like pull this up and show you afterwards. So I could have turned $340 into 1.1 million in the course of 2 or 3 hours. And like, there's just, for me, there's no other way. There's not another way to make that much money that fast. So that's why I'm like, I'm going to keep doing this until one of these things plays out correctly.
So basically, in that situation, you sold early, but you did sell for a profit.
Yeah, I made $5,000.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in another life, I would love to like be super good at like those types of trades, because it seems like there's a ton of upside to it. You just really have to hit one.
Yeah, all it takes is one. That's like what everybody talks about. It's like, because once you do, so for example, once you can make one of those trades to hit like 400K, 300K, something like that, you just take 75% of that out and put it in your bank account. Now you're like set for a few years, and then you can just keep gambling away with another 100K. And then it's like, and then you hit a few more of those. Like, are you really going to burn through your whole 100K stack trying to get another one? Like, probably not. I've only lost 12 grand since I started this 3 months ago. And I'm like pretty risky and pretty like, I'll load up more money a lot. And I've only lost like 12. That's how much I'm down. So like to burn through 100, you would really have to be stupid. So that kind of thing just makes me really inclined to just like, I can do this, and all it takes is one. And it's not like it takes me 4 months of holding and, sacrificing mental health. It can happen in 3 hours. You just have to be right and find the right thing, find the right edge. Like I already had done this literally last week and just, messed it up. But
Is there a way that you could set up systems in place to like keep yourself on track, keep yourself on because I'm just thinking about like, okay, like that's awesome that it can build that high, but like, is there a way to trade in a direct way so that you can make it like the success of one of these trades is 1 out of 500 instead of 1 out of 5,000?
yeah,
so that you make it profitable long term, and then you have like systems to be checking prices on everything that you're holding every 3 hours so that you don't miss like a parabolic spike, and you have time that you're setting aside to like auto refresh Twitter to like buy something the second that it comes posted so that you can ride that the best way. Like I feel like there's systems that you can put in place to like, it sounds super weird to think about trading this disciplinedly, but like probably would help.
yeah,
You're probably already doing stuff.
Yeah, the difficult about it is like with stocks and like regulated securities that could work because you don't have this like crazy risk that's like random things can happen. Like you're not going to buy some penny stock and then it's going to literally go to zero like the next day. It could, I guess, but it's just not likely, or it's not going to go to 100. But you're not going to make $10 million off this thing. But with this stuff, there could be just at the right moment somebody tweets about something and then you just are up $1 million and then you're like down. Like this stuff happens so fast that you can take profits and stop losses in place and that type of thing, but a lot of that stuff won't execute because there's so much volume. Because the volume on these things are ridiculous. Like the thing I was just talking about, I looked at like the 5-minute volume was $13 million being in and out of that coin. So like in 5 minutes, human beings were trading $13 million in and out of this coin. So there's so much volume that it's kind of difficult you can catch it, but you just have to be chronically online. For example, when I first started doing this, I had like a different perspective on it. So I thought that you made profits, then you dumped them into coins you thought were good. Well, the problem is you don't know what's good. You're just kind of like gambling on stuff. So I dumped a bunch of money into all these trades and they'd all basically like went to zero. That was my long-term thing. So every bit of profit I made, I just like gave it away. Well, there was one that I put 5K into is the coolest one that I thought of. It went all the way down to $300. I'm like, I'm not selling now. I'm down 98% of my money. I've literally just lost it all. Randomly the other day, it starts getting tweets. A bunch of this stuff starts happening, and I've turned that $300 in a week into like $18,000, and it went up that much. And I didn't even. I was looking at it. I didn't even take any profit because my thought was that was already zero, and my goal for it was 100K. So I'm just going to hold it to 100K. Now it's back down to 2K, but it had a little rally today. That's just one of those things I'm going to hold, but it's kind of just difficult because it moves so fast, and you can do it meticulously and disciplined and stuff, but you have to trade higher cap stuff that may be $10 million and you think it's going to go to 100 million. Then you could easily do that type of thing.
Yeah. So you're saying that like some of these parabolic spikes only last for 5 to 10 minutes?
5 to 10 seconds sometimes. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like some of this stuff is like, I'm like not even kidding. So the other day too, I think I said this to John, I had bought something like when it first came out, like this shit was at 7K market. I put like $400 in. By the time that I looked, I had sold a little bit. It was already up to 100K, and then it went up to 500K. I made like $7,300 in less than 2 minutes. But like you can lose it just that fast. If I wasn't paying attention, and then it went straight to zero 3 minutes later. So you have to be like chronically
So
kind of.
you were able to catch that one.
Yeah, I made like 7,200 on that one. I mean, that was my biggest trade ever. Yeah.
Is there a business model that's like similar to that where you buy like, let's say you buy like $5 of like every meme coin or whatever, and you just take profits to like 1,000x, and you just have your inventory, and one of them will go parabolic.
Yeah, some people do that. There's a wallet that does that. He buys $20 of every coin and he sells it. It's like exactly what you're saying. He sells it in a certain time frame if it hasn't reached a certain market cap. It's like a lot of these wallets that trade, like you have a wallet that you're trading on, they're bots like that. So that's one of them. He puts $20 into every coin, but the person doing this would have to have like 5 million bucks because there are like 10,000 coins created a day. So you can't possibly, like if you put $5 in, you would burn $50,000 a day if you didn't hit one runner. And there might be 3 days where there's no like $200 million parabolic runner. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. But people do it. I mean, if you have enough, if you can burn cash long enough, you can inevitably hit it. But it's like I don't know if you've ever heard of the martingale strategy at the casino, but it's like you go in with $100 at blackjack. And if you lose, you put in 200 and then you do 400, then you do 800. And it's like, eventually you're going to win because you can just keep doubling your bet. Well, dude, you get like 13 bets in, you're already like over 100K. You came to the casino with $100, like goal. So that's kind of the thing. It's like it stacks up. If you start losing, you lose really, really bad. And you can lose a ton of money.
Yep. Yeah, it's just like you need to know the like stats on how easily you can win something, because it's awesome if it goes up parabolically, but it's kind of like the jackpot, the lottery.
Yeah.
Like the odds don't work out in that situation, but like with crypto, you need to just figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you're trying to hit a lottery. You're trying to cash the ticket in, but there's way more tickets. So your chances, it's skill based. It's not as much gambling based. Like, cause you could technically just buy whatever, but if you know what you're doing, you're like way more likely to hit it.
And you probably seen the people who have done this like professionally and like have like figured this out and like parabolically just done well. Like there are people who like do this full time and they figured out how to do it.
Yeah, so there's a website. I talked to John about this. I thought with Amazon, this would be the coolest thing. They're all the influencers, they call them like KOLs on crypto Twitter, with like key opinion leaders. They all have their wallets like doxed publicly if they want to. And they'll be set like in this website with a monthly leaderboard of how much money they've made daily, weekly, and monthly. So you can see, okay, this person's on Twitter. His wallet, it's not, you can't lie about it. Like you can't just post your sales. This is like a whole blockchain of like he paid this much, he sold it for this much. And you can see guys like the other day, a big coin came out and I saw like the top 3 people had all made over $1 million in the day. Like 1.3, like 1.1, and like 900 and some K. So you can see these guys, like their monthly profits 11 mil or whatever. So it's like ridiculous how much money they make. It's not like, 10K a month's like nothing there. Because I mean, I've made 10K on accident on coins. It's like I made $7,500. These guys will make $1 million.
Can you see how much they're investing though?
Yeah, you can see everything about it. Yeah, how much they're buying of each coin and everything. Yeah, like the Trump coin that just came out. Did you see any of that? Trump released a meme coin.
I don't know much about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So he came out with it. I saw it at like 500 mil. It went to 75 bill. That's like a massive amount of money. And where it's the president, there was a huge liquidity pool. So usually you can't shove $1 million into a coin or 500,000 into a coin and sell it. It's just not, if you sold it, it would go to zero because there's not enough liquidity to do that. But Trump's coin, there was like $1 billion almost of liquidity. So if you had a $2 million position, you can just clip out 2 million. You won't lose any money, which is like unheard of. That was a one in a lifetime event. I didn't take advantage of it enough. I made a few grand, but nothing like I saw guys that were shoving in 500K. They did a 20X and made like $10 million. There's guys that made 5 million, 8 million constantly. And you just never get that opportunity because nothing has that much liquidity. And that'll probably never happen again. So I fumbled that one, but yeah. And because people thought it was fake. I thought it was fake. There's no way the president just launched a meme coin before the inauguration. There's no way that's real. It was real. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. What else we got here? I've talked about crypto a ton, but I never really have talked about it in the pod. I want to get somebody on that does crypto at a high level that's not like me, that can kind of explain this stuff better. Because I think that a lot of people just think of it as, I don't know, what did you think about it before knowing that I did this?
Well, I mean, for me, I've been like a lot of people and have um, basically focused on it a little bit too much when it's already at the peak,
Yeah.
and just basically a newcomer who doesn't understand it, and like you buy the top and then like lose some money or like break even on it. Like I remember in I think 2018, I bought pretty close to the top and I saw it was going down. So I think I sold for break even and was like, that was scary. I'm not doing that anymore. It's not like I had much money at that point, anyways. Um, but then like you can obviously see some people are doing this and they continue to do this and do well with it. And then after all these market cycles, like understanding like, okay, like all these market cycles have happened. Like I kind of thought I was dumb to buy Bitcoin at like 40K, but I kind of had a feeling it would go back up. Like, like this has happened like 3, 4 times at this point. So like something similar will probably happen in the future. But now is not the time to buy, in my opinion. Kind of need to wait for it to parabolically get lower first. So that's as far as like trends with crypto in general. But then like trading meme coins, I think I watched like a 30-minute, like this is how I got started and made money from this guy. He tried like 20 different side hustles. I think he tried land flipping. He tried like marketing. He tried like doing sales calls. And then he tried doing crypto. And I think he made like, he didn't make $1 million in a year, but he made it in like a year and a half doing crypto, um, which is fascinating. So that's kind of my experience with it.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm always curious to hear like what, because I'll tell people I'm doing that and they just look at me like I'm a psycho a lot of times. I'm like, you guys don't understand. It's just like there's no way you can make money that fast. And it's not like I'm going to do it forever. I mean, maybe it's around for way longer than I think. But I think, like you said, it'll just tank and then everybody kind of leaves and they come back again. It's just how it goes.
I just feel like there's got to be, I'm sure there's systems for how you can understand where attention is going to go and just get in early enough to make money. And so
try it.
Systems around that.
Maybe this is your thing. You seem like systematized enough to like actually figure something like that out. I'm also very disorganized. Like me and you are probably polar opposites when it comes to that stuff. I can tell when I'm talking to you, like I don't do any of that stuff. Like you track your like net worth and everything. Dude, I'm like a train wreck with that.
But it's working out for you though.
Right now. Yeah. We'll see it a year from now.
The problem, I think also the problem with me, like compared to you as well, is like I was pretty convinced with this 20K wire mishap thing that I just wasn't going to get it back. Like I was like pretty convinced for a good like 2, 3 weeks because basically both sides were saying it's not my fault, it's their fault, and both sides were saying that, and I couldn't make any progress with it. Um, and like from a net worth perspective, like losing 20K is fine, but I was super discouraged and depressed about it for like a week or two. Whereas like you'll like lose like 5K in a day and you'll be like, well, it's just part of the process.
Yeah, I paid a lot of money for mentorships. We've talked about on this pod before. I've lost like ridiculous amounts of money with Amazon and stuff. I thought I would always have money, but I just always think like I'm going to be a millionaire and might be super rich. So it's like me losing 10K is like not a big deal in the grand scheme of things, which I feel like that is kind of the mindset you have to be really rich. But I just don't really think about it, I guess. And I don't need a lot to live. I think maybe if I was like affecting my lifestyle, I would be more concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the whole key to all of this is like your lifestyle versus because like I was listening to a podcast the other day and they're like, you never want to go back down. Right. So like if you're gonna fly first class, like you should probably make sure you can fly first class like today and like your future trips because you don't want to go down. Like of course it's okay to go down, but like that's just the way you have to look at it. So I think a lot of people that also really screws you on the back end too, especially if you're doing really well and then you're trying to play pretend to keep up the lifestyle when the money's not there. But I do agree with you where it's just like there's just like I think there just comes like a certain point in time where, I mean, if we've had it happen, like you just lose money on Amazon and you're just like, it is what it is, right? I lost like $2,000 worth of Legos, and it's like, you could either just like cry and complain about it, like I'm not getting it back, like whether I hire like Riverbend and all these other people, it's the same shit. Like we're not taking the invoices. It's like I could spend 6 months fighting them. They're gonna say no, or be like, you know what, screw you. I'm just gonna get another ace in and make 4K, and like I'm not even gonna worry about that and just write it off. I think you have to be like that in business for sure. It's like you can't almost. It's like Amazon too. Like it sounds bad. Like I have an account, we have inventory labs, we have everything. It's like it's so hard to track every single dollar. Like it's literally impossible with Amazon. Like there's something that just like came back to my inventory from like 2 years ago. It's like a pair of Nike socks that were sold. I was like, I haven't bought Nike socks in I don't even know how long. And then they got returned. And I was like, where did this even come from? So I think you got to be like you were saying, and I think that's a really good spot to be in, where it's just like, and not everyone can be in that spot where it's just like, yeah, this could go to zero. And like, I'd be okay with that. Like, it's really hard to say, but I mean, that's business in general. Like that wire, right? If that was your last $20,000, probably not the best idea to like buy this, house that could have no floor or no walls or whatever, right? Because not your best play, but like since you like have other things in place and this is something you're trying, I've always tried to put it that way too. It's like whenever I'm trying something new, it's like I have to be prepared to lose that money because I've lost plenty of money doing Amazon stuff, and it's like that's just the price you pay to learn, basically.
Yeah, I think I read Cash Flow recently, and I think in that book they said something like, if you're trying a new venture, like it's probably a good idea to not risk more than, like, I think it was like 10 to 25%, probably 10 to 20% of your net worth on like a new venture, like especially if things haven't been built up that much in the first place. It's like if you're just going to lose everything on something that you're not even skilled at, should probably like calculate, and not risk everything on something that you don't know how to do.
You touched on something earlier. You were talking about the scarcity stuff or whatever, that you were taking some kind of class on that to be less like scarce on stuff. Now that we're talking through this, I bet this is where this comes from. Like if you're more like scarce and frugal and that type of thing, like, dude, I think a lot of that is just kind of ingrained in you. And like that benefits you just as much as it can hurt you. Like that, like for example, Warren Buffett, it's like one of the richest dudes on earth. And he lives in like a decent house, drives like a decent car, like, and he has unlimited money. So sometimes it's just like that's the way people kind of build their wealth one way. And you've built your wealth this way of being like very meticulous and very like, I don't want to lose money and stuff. So there's a good chance you'll just continue to build your wealth that way. And like if I've been reckless and I'm like abundant, I don't care if I lose 10K because I know I'll make 50. Like that's probably just how I'll be. And for me to try to be organized and try to be scarce, it's probably like impossible. And same like vice versa to you. It's like really hard to get that. I think it's like a personality, how you grew up and that type of thing. It's like kind of deep in you. Cause like my best friend, he's just like, he won't even risk anything. And I'm like, dude, you have like more money than most people. Not that he like has any like online money type stuff, but it's just like just how he was and how he's always like been. I'm like, I don't even know if you can unlearn that or how I could unlearn just being like whatever. Like, and it could be to my huge detriment, but I think it's kind of in you a little bit.
That's a good point. I mean, I think there's a difference between being meticulous and risk averse, versus, like, I can be meticulous and risk averse, but still have more of an abundant mindset.
Yeah, yeah.
So I can keep the benefits without like having anxiety around it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like unnecessary anxiety around like, okay, like why am I, um, yeah, well, like why work like 9, 10 hours a day when like net worth, like we could survive off of net worth for like 10 plus years. Like it's fine. Like why? Yeah. Anyways, you could go down the rabbit hole there, but then like the positive with like, if it's a something that's the risk is worth the reward. Like in your situation, like if you can like pin down, like, okay, if I risk 10K 3 times, there's a good chance I'll make 70K. Like that's a great bet. So doing that makes sense.
Yeah, but sometimes it's not that simple. A lot of times it's not that simple because there's never like I'm guaranteed going to make that much money. Like 100%, you could just go to zero.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the likelihood is that you go to zero, which is probably the scenario I'm playing in. Like the likelihood is 99% is that I don't make any money in crypto and I come out of here zeroed out of the money I put in.
Yeah, but the thing is like, why are certain people like very successful with it consistently?
It's all the mental. I think all this stuff's like mental. It's just the people that believe that like eventually it will work out and they will not stop until they can. And they have a set of like rules in place to like where they learn from their mistakes and they don't just like zero out and then zero out again, zero out again. That's with every business model, especially one where you can lose so much so fast.
Yeah. It kind of like shows there is a way to figure it out. Just got to figure it out.
Yeah, there's just enough persistence. It's like the basic stuff, persistence and that kind of thing that gets you there. But it is true. I mean, there's a reason it's cliche.
Yeah, I guess it is a little cliche, but
It's because it's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 2 hours and 10 minutes. What'd you guys say was the last one?
157. So we hit it. Any parting words for the people, Seth?
Wow. Any last words for the people? Build your skills over time, and that leads you to better and better places.
Sweet.
What about you guys? Last words for the people?
Ooh.
John?
For me, I would say be willing to try new things. If you are broke, Amazon's probably not for you. You start with Facebook Marketplace or the influencer program.
Oh man, now it's my turn. I'm last. What's my motivational words?
Try harder.
No. You can make a lot more money than you think is possible very fast. You just got to keep working at it. Most of the money you will make will come in very short spurts if you just put your head down. So that's my parting words.
Sweet.
Love it.
All right, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, go follow Seth, Checkmate Flips. Show some love in the comments, like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace. Bye, guys.